Okay, so today I am making the black bean brownies. Let me share my screen really quickly so that I can go over the recipe. Alrighty, so like I said, black bean brownies, it'll serve around 9 to 12 people, and the calories are pretty low in these as well as the fat and the carbohydrates. So they're a very healthy alternative, but they also are ridiculously delicious. I have already tried one. I made it ahead of time so that y'all didn't have to sit and watch me bake anything, but they're really, really good. And we'll talk more about like the texture and everything in a little bit. So it uses 1 can of low sodium black beans. I have mine here. I just get the whatever brand really, but as long as it says low sodium on it, mine says it right there. And I also just check the sodium on the back. It is low. So a low sodium item is anything with 140 milligrams of sodium or lower, and this is 130, so it meets that cutoff. We are going to open these and then drain and rinse them really, really well to get any remaining salt out of there because we don't want salty brownies. Then it also uses 2 tablespoons of cocoa powder. They are very chocolatey, and I appreciate that because I really like chocolate. It uses half a cup of quick oats, a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, a 1/3 cup of maple syrup, or you could use honey or agave. I'm using maple syrup today. And it's the pure maple syrup, the 100% maple syrup, not just like the ones that you get for pancakes or whatever. And then 2 tablespoons of sugar, a 1/4 cup of coconut or vegetable oil. I'm just going to be using vegetable oil. I bet coconut oil would be really delicious too. It would probably give it a little bit of a different flavor. I really like coconut oil, but I just had vegetable oil on hand. And then 2 teaspoons of pure vanilla extract, a 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder, and 2/3 cup of chocolate chips. So let me go preheat the oven really quickly, and then I'm going to take you over and we're going to rinse the beans. Let me do that. All right, oven is preheating. We're going to go over to the sink and I'll just kind of show you how I rinse the beans. It's really, really simple. So I got my little strainer right here. I always wash the top of my cans off because who knows what's been happening on these cans. So this is already pre-washed. Obviously just open up the can. I always rinse my beans because I like to get whatever extra salt is in there out of there. I also am not a huge fan of like the bean juice or whatever. I just prefer the beans themselves. So we're gonna rinse that. And then what I usually do is just fill it with water, kind of shake it around, dump it out. I'm trying to get all the beans out of the can. And then recycle the can afterwards. Alrighty, there we go. And I'm just gonna rinse it for just a second. Shake it around. I like to turn on my little sprayer. Make sure all that salt's out of there. And then drain them. And we're gonna go ahead and put that in our big bowl. So it doesn't specifically say to put it in a bowl before you put it in the food processor, but I just like to put it in a large bowl, mix it all together, and then put it in the food processor, especially if you need to do like batches of stuff. And my food processor is actually pretty large, so it fits this entire thing. But if you were to double or triple this recipe, it might not be big enough. So you would have to do batches of processing. Okay, let me take you back over here. We're gonna dump our beans in the mixing bowl. Oh, let me go ahead and stop sharing my screen real fast so that y'all can actually see me do everything. So there's my mixing bowl. And I'm just gonna mix it with a fork actually. So next we have, let's see, the recipe's behind the window. Sorry about that. Okay. Next we have to put 2 tablespoons of cocoa powder. So I'm just gonna estimate 2 tablespoons. A little bit extra is never going to be a bad thing, but definitely at least 2. And then 1/2 a cup of quick oats. I just got the HEB brand. of quick oats, nothing too special. It is pretty ground up, which I like because you'll see at the very end, you're still going to kind of get a little bit of the oaty, like you're going to see the oats in there. And this one's really kind of already ground up, which I like much better. So just half a cup of that one. And this recipe is gluten-free because it uses oats and because it uses beans instead of any sort of flour. So if you have any sort of gluten intolerances, that'll help. And then a fourth a teaspoon of salt. I am not a professional baker, obviously. I know you're supposed to put like, I think a strainer or a colander, not a colander, but like a sifter over this to put all your small things in and then sift it in. But I'm just going to dump them in today. So a fourth teaspoon of salt and then a third a cup of maple syrup. Again, use the 100% pure maple syrup or honey or agave if you wanted to do that. I just prefer the taste of maple syrup. Dump that in there and let that drain from the cup for a second. And then 2 tablespoons of sugar. I tried the brownies and they're very, very sweet. So if you wanted to, you could get rid of the 2 tablespoons of sugar, but for the sake of this demonstration, I'm just going to leave it because that's what the recipe called for. So we're going to put in the 2 tablespoons of sugar and just white or brown. I don't think it really matters. I used white for the other ones. Alrighty. And then a 4th cup of coconut or vegetable oil. Like I said, I have the vegetable oil, but you can definitely use coconut oil if you want to. Put a 4th cup in there. And then 2 teaspoons of the pure vanilla extract, which is a lot. I don't know if y'all are bake very often, but 2 teaspoons is quite a bit. I'm wondering if they're trying to counteract any residual bean flavor. Which there isn't at all. Whenever you taste it, you cannot pick up on beans at all. And then we have a half teaspoon of baking powder. And I love that they have this little built-in lip so that you can even it off. Baking powder is one of those things you want to get an exact amount. You do not want to go over. Whereas the cocoa powder, it didn't really matter too much. And then we're going to put the chocolate chips in afterwards. But I just have these little, I use these vegan chocolate chips. They don't have any dairy or egg or anything. But we're going to do that later. For now, we're just going to mix it all up. I'm going to make sure, double check that I got everything. I got my beans, my cocoa powder, my oats, salt, maple syrup, sugar, vegetable oil, yep, and vanilla extract and baking powder. So like I said, this is not in the actual instructions, but I just thought it would be helpful just in case it was too big for my food processor and I had to do it in batches, just to mix it all up ahead of time in this large bowl and then transfer it to my food processor afterwards. And then I was really worried that it was going to stick to my pan because it doesn't say to grease the pan or anything, but it did not at all. So it has plenty of oil in there already. Let me go ahead and transfer this to my food processor. And I left it processing for about probably a full minute, just to make sure that everything was chopped up as best as it could be. Alrighty, so I'm just gonna pour it in and then scrape all the excess down. Get everything in there. They are, and we'll talk about this a little bit more at the end, but they are incredibly moist. So you might want to add more, either add less of the vegetable oil, just a little bit less, or add more of the oat, because yeah, they are really, really moist, which I like, but if you wanted a brownie that stuck together a little bit better, this is not that. You'd have to modify it a bit. I'm gonna move y'all over here to the food processor. I'm just going all over my kitchen now. Buckle that up. have my little Ninja food processor. I am going to mute it while it processes because it's probably really loud, but I just wanted y'all to kind of see, let's move it into the light a little bit, see what it's looking like as it processes. Let me mute it real fast.
So eerily quiet.
Okay, you can't really see it very well, I apologize. But I'm just going to scrape all the extra oats that are up on the sides, scrape them down in there, and then process it again for like probably 20-ish seconds until it looks really good. And then we'll look at the consistency a little bit more whenever I actually put it in the pan. Let me mute y'all again. Okay, so it's all processed. I'm going to take this out, scrape all of the excess off, mix in my chocolate chips, and then go ahead and put it in the pan. And again, it's not needing to be greased. Get all of it that I possibly can off these blades. Okay. Put that over here. Alrighty, and it calls for 2/3 chocolate chips. So we're just gonna pour 2/3 in, and then we're going to put some extras on the top. I have just a little bit more in here, so I'm gonna put those on the top. I'm going to just mix in, kind of fold in the chocolate chips. I'm actually gonna turn this up brighter. There we go, that's much better. So that y'all can see the consistency. All mixed in.
Does it seem runnier than a normal brownie
Yes,
mix?
for sure.
Okay.
Like I said, it's really, really moist. It's a lot more runny than a normal brownie batter. So maybe put in, it calls for 1/2 cup of oats, maybe put in 2/3 cup, or even a full cup would probably be okay, just to get a little bit thicker, because it's really runny, very, very moist. They are delicious though. So if you wanted to use like them as a topping for like ice cream or something, that would be delicious. But they do kind of just fall apart completely. You really have to eat them with a like a utensil. Okay. So I'm not sure if y'all can see that super good, but it is very grainy. You can see the oats and the chocolate chips very clearly. It doesn't look like a normal brownie batter, but man, it sure does taste good. So we're gonna just spread it out evenly. Honestly, I don't even know if we need extra chocolate chips. This is a lot of chocolate chips, but just for fun, we'll sprinkle a couple more on top. Where did they go? Here they are. Pour them in my hand. There we go. Just to make it look pretty. And then dump a couple.
I like these types of recipes that are so quick, you know.
It is really quick. And I was surprised how quickly it baked as well. It only baked for 20 minutes, which is kind of not normal, I feel like.
No, that's
so I'm going to go ahead and put these in the oven, and then I will show you what they look like afterwards, because I've already baked it. Okay, let me set my little timer. Okay, Google, set a timer for 20 minutes.
All right, 20 minutes.
Okay.
And that's starting now.
All right, thank you. Also, I'm wondering if maybe cooking it for a little bit longer might help it thicken up, possibly, or get some of the moisture out of there. So if you wanted to cook it maybe for like 25, maybe I'll do that this time, 25 to 30 minutes, and then I'll send someone an email. I'll send you an email, Patty, if you would like.
Okay.
So here is the finished product. It did actually kind of firm up a little bit now that it's been sitting out of the oven for a while. Whenever I first got it out, it says to leave it for 10 minutes before you even try to touch it. And that totally makes sense because even at 10 minutes, it was still very mushy. But now let's see if I can even pick it up with my fingers. Aha.
So do the edges like a normal brownie harden up?
Yes, the edges are pretty hard.
Okay.
See that.
Okay.
They're not as crispy as a normal brownie. To my knowledge, with normal brownies, you kind of have to grease the pan before because otherwise it's just going to stick to the bottom really bad. These did not stick, which means that the edges are not going to be as firm. Still really good. It still has kind of, you can definitely see the oats in there. You cannot see the black beans, thank goodness, because that would be not very appetizing. And you can definitely see the chocolate chips, lots of chocolate chips in there. That may be another reason why it's so moist is because there's so many chocolate chips in there. And it just wasn't able to firm up. But it really.
It kind of reminds me of, you know how, what is that chocolate cake that's like real thin? And it's like, it's almost just all sugary. I can't remember what kind of chocolate cake that is. But it's just so, but there's not much flour or anything else in there to make it cake-like.
I think the chocolate comes through a lot because it doesn't have anything to take away from it. Like it has the bean and it has the oats, but those aren't super flavorful in and of themselves. So yeah, the chocolate is very prominent. It is very delicious. Do you have any questions about the consistency or how it baked or anything along those lines?
No, I would like to maybe change it up and do honey.
Yeah.
And the coconut oil.
Yeah, absolutely.
And see what that does.
Yeah, I think the consistency will probably be pretty similar. I'm trying to think what difference could possibly happen. The only difference I think is going to be in taste. If you have to have coconut oil and honey on hand, that's perfect. That'll work perfectly fine. Coconut oil and vegetable oil both are plant oils. And coconut oil gets to liquid really, really quickly whenever you heat it up just a little bit. So I feel like the consistency will be similar. And then obviously honey and maple syrup taste, they're both equally as sweet. But yeah. And also if you didn't want it quite as sweet, you could get rid, I think, of the 2 tablespoons of sugar. The chocolate chips, I got semi-sweet chocolate chips. So they're all going to be pretty sweet by themselves. If you wanted to get, they're like just the pure chocolate chips, I think, like without any sugar at all, you could do that if you wanted to kind of get it a little less sweet, but it's really, really good. Highly recommended. And I added in on the recipe at the very end that you should serve it and then let everyone enjoy it and then tell them, by the way, it has beans in it, because that usually throws people through a loop and they go into tasting it a lot more critically than if they would have just eaten it by themselves and didn't even know that there was black beans in there. But it does add a little bit of protein, which is nice. You're getting a tiny bit of protein with your delicious dessert. But that's all that I have today. Super quick and easy. Last cooking class of the semester. The new grad student is going to take over in the spring semester, and I'm not sure what her schedule is going to be. It might be similar to mine, but it might be a little bit different. I'm going to tell her to still send out all the announcements on Teams and do all that stuff, so y'all will be aware of when and just when those classes are happening.
Right. Well, we appreciate you with all these classes that you've done virtually. They've been fun.
Thank you.
Wish we were able to taste them, but that's okay.
I know.
A lot of times
that's the most disappointing part. And if you stick around, hopefully in the fall, it'll resume back to how it's supposed to be. And this would be a really fun recipe to make in person. Oh, speaking of which, actually, Josh, I don't know if you can hear me but I made a Canvas site for the Wellcats nutrition part of Wellcats. And it has all the recipes, all the videos and everything, all the recordings that are just available. So if you want, I can definitely add you to that one so that you have everything that I've ever done just available to you in a nice little Canvas format. But beyond that, I think we are good to go. Thank you for coming today, Patty.
Oh, you're welcome. And so what are your plans after this semester?
Let me stop recording.